I am delighted to be joined by Robbie Steinhouse. Hello, Robbie. Thank you for your time today. You are presenting one of our masterclasses in 2026, and the title, which I do need slight reminding of because it's a long title, Stoicism and NLP, that bit I can remember. Stoicism and NLP, mapping across ancient wisdom to practical change technology. So please do tell us a little bit more about your presentation, yourself and your presentation.
Lovely. Okay, well, a little bit more about myself to start with. I wouldn't really call myself that I was Roman in some ways, because obviously Stoics tended to be Roman, but it is something which, as a topic, has always interested me. I suppose my background was that I was a businessman up until, well, I still am really, aren't you? You can never really get rid of it, or entrepreneur or whatever. Um, I suppose, and that's possibly different, is that I was an entrepreneur and only an entrepreneur really until I was 40, and then I started, learning NLP and became a trainer. So that's with a kind of my background, and also I try not to take it too seriously. One of the things with entrepreneurs is, people keep trying to sell you something, so I'm always a bit skeptical. So I try and bring that out. Hopefully, I like to consider myself anti-guru, but sadly, if ever there were gurus, they would be the Stoics. So that's and in terms of the Stoics themselves, I mean, I can talk more about that, I don't know, in your next questions, but I mean, briefly about the presentation. Is Stoicism is an ancient philosophy, but it is also in some ways quite a contemporary idea. It's quite it's a bit like Buddhism meets, I don't know what you call it, resilience. It's a sense that you're into the present moment. Whatever happens, you accept as the current reality. So you kind of, in some senses, have a fundamental choice according to Stoicism. Something happens to you in the moment, you can either accept it or reject it. And they say accept it, because rejecting it puts you into a negative state and creates all sorts of problems. If you accept it, regardless what it is, you then have more choice. And as we know, choice is better than no choice.
Absolutely. So what is fresh, innovative and new that delegates will take away from your masterclass?
Well, I mean, I think there's quite a lot in it. I mean, I was thinking maybe, as ever, using Robert Dilts's logical levels, saying, if you look at it in a sense, Stoicism provides a set of beliefs and values which are interesting. There are also some capabilities which are around visualization, and then there are certain behaviors. So I think there are similarities. I think possibly Stoicism is more away from rather than towards in its philosophy, because it's more a matter of how do you cope with problems. But it's towards, in its sense, saying that if you can, the payoff is tranquility. And that's the kind of key ambition, is saying if you accept reality, not, and this is really an important thing, not in a fatalistic way. One of the most famous Stoics is Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman, who ran the Roman Empire. He's one of the most successful Caesars. So he wasn't passive in any way at all. I mean, he was one of the most aggressive people probably ever. But he did write this famous book about Stoicism, which was his, sort of, and the fatalism is a point that, so he doesn't just take life on the chin. His meditations are very much, he's very proactive, but he also accepts whatever happens. And that's kind of courage as well. As you go into battle, if you get killed, then you accept it. That's what's going to happen in the present moment. Whatever happens, you accept it. And with that, it gives him a power that he never kind of enters into a kind of what Robert would call a crash state. Well, I imagine he must do occasionally. I think he was still human, but anyway, does that, I don't know, I feel I'm babbling on a bit. Does that give you a few ideas?
No, I think it's a very helpful insight into what Stoicism stands for. So thank you. So what top tip would you give to delegates attending your masterclass?
Well, I mean, there's quite a lot in it, because I've sort of, we say, mapping over. So some of them is mapping over some NLP visualization techniques, something around 6-step reframing, something around something. Robert Dilts created something called the coach state. So I've created something which is using the Stoic values, which are gratitude, acceptance, tranquility, ethics and wisdom. And I've mapped those over onto a kind of qigong thing. This is one of the other things I like to do, is take traditional practices from various, I don't know, backgrounds. Qigong is a kind of Chinese yoga, and map those onto kind of NLP-ish ideas. I have lots of that up my sleeve, if you like. And so, as a top tip, if I was to give the top tip, it would be that, I don't know why I'm quoting Robert so much at the moment, probably because after seeing Richard Bandle and John Grinder, I sort of feel, possibly we need to mention his name a little more. But Robert said this thing, which I've always stuck with me. So one of the beliefs I choose to hold. So it's a sense that, how can you consciously choose your beliefs? Most beliefs are not particularly useful. So one of the beliefs that Stoicism has, which is this: some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. That's from probably the most famous Stoic, who's Epictetus, Roman slave, and he then, gained his freedom and became a philosopher. And it's very simply put, isn't it? Some things are up to us and some things aren't up to us. But that is, in some senses, the whole kind of kernel of Stoicism. How do you greet problems when they arrive? If you kind of say, okay, well, I have certain choices, I can certainly choose how I judge it. To some extent, I can choose my emotional response. I think maybe it's a little unrealistic to think that you completely control your emotional response, but you can influence it. And one way of influencing your emotional response is to consider, what are your beliefs? And if you have a belief that what's happening now, although it's really rather unpleasant and I wish it wouldn't happen, it's not up to me. There's nothing I can do about that happening. It's happening. If I hold that belief, then I have much more choice over my state. And then there are these values. So things around ethics is an interesting one. So it's not saying you should give up on ethics, or tranquility, gratitude, acceptance, and wisdom. So these are my values. If I kind of greet whatever happens to me, and it's like the map is not the territory. A Stoic map is basically saying, how would you model someone who can stay fairly happy and tranquil? And that's how they greet things. That's my top tip. If you want me to update it, I think there's the famous psychologist who said that the last of human freedoms is to choose our attitude in any given set of circumstances. And that is existential philosophy, is you do have a choice of your attitude. And so that's a belief you can hold. And if you hold that belief, that can then influence your state. If you hold the belief, this is what's happened to me is outrageous, then you're going to get angry. And if you get angry, you're going to, blood will flow out of your head and go into your stomach and so on. So it's kind of like an aspiration. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say it's going to work all the time, but if you hold that and understand it, you're much more likely to withstand the slings and arrows of outrage.
Buffeting around. Yes.
Sorry, I'm going all over the place with my
Give me a good history lesson here, test of my historical knowledge. So, Robbie, what inspired you to want to present one of these masterclasses?
Well, as you can probably tell, I like talking, so I thought there would be an opportunity to do quite a lot of it. No, I like teaching, and I like the idea of ultimately it's Stoicism has really helped me. I mean, it's something that I've adopted. If I can also, what inspires me to do it is my latest book, which is in a bookshop near you, coming out soon, The Process, where the lead character, Louise, who is a Stoic.
Right.
So it's an idea of, I think we will need to have some kind of philosophy, and if you're not religious, to have some kind of philosophy, some kind of creed, I think it's a good idea.
Absolutely.
And I think, why am I doing it, which is implied in your question, is to share with people so hopefully they can have a better state and be happier and be more productive and not get themselves into terrible, I don't know, knickers in the twist type thing. That's
terrible tangles, yes.
To say, yes, but crash state or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this sounds really, really interesting. And yes, thank you for testing my historical knowledge. It is
Particularly.
it is found wanting, but however, I will still really enjoy the session. I'm very much looking forward to it. So to remind those watching this, Robbie is presenting on Stoicism and NLP, mapping across ancient wisdom to practical change technology. And you are presenting on Saturday, the 27th of June, which happens to be our wedding anniversary. Saturday, the 27th of June, 2026 at 4 p.m. So 1600 hours BST. So Cash and I will be enjoying that rather than going out to dinner. So thank you. We're really looking forward to it. It's definitely one that interests us, and we will see you there, if not before. So thank you, Robbie.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.